brings to that room.
Chubb's got 77 yards on the ground, checking down forehand, into it, stiff arming, keeping his balance. It's a foot race down the sideline, touchdown!
It's Hill. Taysom Hill picks up the Saints first down, still going. Wow. Hill spins to the goal line. He's in. Touchdown.
All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. My chopper hit. My chopper hit. My 40 hit. My 40 hit. I don't care if you let how I step. I don't care if you let how I rip. I don't care if you let how I step. I don't care if you let how I rip. I got sauce, I got flavor. Getting all this paper. I got sauce, I got flavor. Getting all this paper. Plain Jane Paddock on my motherfucking wrist. They notice every time when I walk up in this bitch. Post on walk up in this bitch. Keep my Glock up in this bitch. Post on walk up in this bitch. Keep my Glock up in this bitch. My chopper hit. My chopper hit. My 40 hit. My 40 hit.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the very first time to Pigskin Mafia Podcast revamped. And I say revamped because we got a new logo. We got a new attitude. We also have new seasons of football. And I'm talking about NFL, college. But tonight, we're just going to discuss the midway point of the college football season. Weeks 1 through 6, baby. Let's get it. I'm fired up. Let's go. Here we go. Weeks 1 through 6. All right. Let's talk about this for a minute. It's 2021. It's been 14 years since the 2007 season, right? Well, guess what? The 2007 season crept up and 39 ranked teams have lost in the matter of 6 weeks. I don't know how many is going to lose this next couple weeks. I mean, it's going to be chaos. Just imagine what happened in 2007. 2021 is basically COVID on steroids with losing ranked teams. Okay? So now I want to talk about the impressive teams out of each conference. Okay? Starting off with the ACC, got the number 22 NC State Wolfpack, who are 4-1. Their biggest win was the number 9 Clemson Tigers. They lost to the Mississippi State Bulldogs under Mike Leach. They lost to them 24-10. Very impressive. They have a very good offense. They can hurt you on the run. They can hurt you on the pass, especially on the pass with Devin Leary behind that quarterback. Next, I'm going to talk about the Big Ten, where we have the number 2 Iowa Hawkeyes. If it wasn't for Penn State losing Sean Clifford, I think Penn State would have been on this list right here because, honestly, they are good. Iowa and Penn State both belong in this category, but I have to go with Iowa because of the win over Penn State. And honestly, their defense is something I haven't seen from Iowa in many, many years. And they are turnover machines. Like, they create turnovers on that Iowa Hawkeye defense. Now we'll move into the Big 12. There's been a lot of surprising teams. Oklahoma State being undefeated. Oklahoma being undefeated. Texas Tech at 4-2. Texas at 4-2 under Sarkisian in his first year. But one team stood out from the rest of them, and that has to be the Baylor Bears. And the reason why I say the Baylor Bears is because they're behind, or they were out for COVID in 2020, and they didn't have a full off season, right? So not a whole lot of recruiting, not a whole lot of trying to get coaches together like Dan Miranda wanted. So Dave Aranda did a really good job this offseason picking up these good assistant coaches from around the country and getting these recruits. Now they have a freaking loaded offense under Tyquan Thornton and Bohannon as the quarterback. And Bohannon is an absolutely smart quarterback. Hasn't thrown a pick since he was a high schooler, man. So watch out for the Baylor Bears because they are a sleeper team in the Big 12 for sure. Next, we'll move into the Pac-12. There's not a whole lot of teams I could talk about in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 to me is the most disappointing conference in the Power 5. But I have to say the Arizona State Sun Devils have impressed me, even though they lost to a number 10 BYU team that just lost to Boise State. But I got to say, shout out to Herm Edwards. He turned that program around for the better, and Daniels is a great quarterback for the Arizona State Sun Devils. And next, the SEC, the mighty SEC, the last impressive team in this list. And I'm only going one per conference. The Kentucky Wildcats, because they shocked the world by beating LSU the way they did. And I got to say, watch out for Kentucky in this game against Georgia. They might give Georgia a little bit of trouble. Who knows? Georgia's the number 1 ranked team. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia had a little bit of trouble with Kentucky. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia was able to hold them to a 3-point score or even a shutout. I mean, this Georgia team is unbelievable this year. Now we'll move into the not impressive, but disappointing teams in all of college football. Okay, so I got my number 1, obviously ACC, because there's a lot of garbage teams in the ACC. I could have put North Carolina on this list. I could have put Florida State. I could have put anybody on this list that associates with the ACC. But national champions in 2016 and 2018. And runner-ups in 2019, college football playoff contestants. And that would be the Clemson Tigers. Here's my reason why. They've lost so much talent since Trevor Lawrence left, since Travis Etienne left. They lost T. Higgins the year before, who is now a teammate of Joe Burrow's, a teammate of Jamar Chase. And I got to say, Dabo's having a lot of trouble with these ACC teams right now because they lost to NC State. They were struggling against Boston College. They were able to pull it out against Boston College. This has to be one of the worst years that Dabo Swinney has ever started this year, or in his entire coaching career for Clemson. So I don't expect them to have a bounce back. So I think they're going to lose more than 2 games in this season. Next off, we got the LSU Tigers from the mighty SEC. 2019, they won the national championship. Afterwards, Ed Orgeron is 8-8, and the reason why they're 8-8 is because they were 5-5 in the 2020 season, and now in the 2021 season, they are 3-3. It's like after winning the national championship, just have bad luck falling everywhere. Off the field issues, on the field issues. You got people that opt out of the season because of COVID and they want to get ready for the NFL. I mean, Ed Orgeron's got to come up with something or he's going to be in the hot seat. I don't expect him to be in the hot seat just yet, but he looks like he's about to be in the hot seat at this point of his coaching career with LSU. Next up, I got West Virginia from the Big 12. And the reason why I got West Virginia is because after Dana Holgorsen, they just haven't been consistent as a team. They haven't been consistent as a winning program. And with Dana Holgorsen, they were competing with the likes of Oklahoma. They were competing with the likes of Oklahoma State, Texas, and TCU, even Baylor. I mean, West Virginia has struggled ever since Dana Holgorsen left. I mean, you got to find ways to win, and you got to find ways to open up your playbook. And I think West Virginia could have beaten Oklahoma in that game in Norman, but their offense was not playing up to par, and they could have given the rock more to their running back, and it just didn't work out. Next up, I have Wisconsin. They are, oh man, they started off with a pretty loss. I'd much rather have an ugly win than a pretty loss. They couldn't get anything going offensively. They haven't been able to get anything offensively against Big Ten schools. It's just been sad for the Badgers. I mean, they're 2-3 right now. And honestly, if they keep playing the way they are, they're not going to make it to a bowl game. And that's going to be a first time in over 2 decades. I mean, it's almost shocking to see the Wisconsin Badgers on this list for me. I mean, I could have put Indiana. I could have put Minnesota. I could have put anybody. But Wisconsin, to me, puts the icing on the cake because they've been consistently good over the years. But now they're 2-3 in the first 6 weeks of the season. And which leads me to my last team. Ever since the 2005 National Championship game, USC pretty much moved out of the spotlight. After Pete Carroll left, things just spiraled out of control with coaching changes, with players decommitting, with players going to Oregon. That's been a big issue. And USC has not been the USC that I grew up to know. It's kind of sad. It's kind of disappointing for USC to look at them like that. And man, just 3-3, just at 500. If they want to bounce back, they have to bounce back now, or otherwise they're going to be in the same situation that they have been in the recent years. And that concludes the disappointing teams. Now, I will get to the most impressive players in my mind. I mean, you guys have – there's been a lot of impressive players, but these are players that struck out to me the most this season. And I will give an honorable mention to Bijan Robinson because I've been watching him play ever since he was a freshman at Texas, and I know what he's capable of because I've read through his college statistics or high school statistics. But it's not surprising to me that he's so good at making guys miss and bouncing off whippy tacklers like the way he does. It reminds me of a stockier Reggie Bush, you know, and a little bit of Barry Sanders too with Bijan Robinson. But anyway, number one, the young freshman, Xavier Worthy, wide receiver, Texas. So he has a lot of Devontae Smith in him. And the reason why I say that is because they're both small guys and they both fit the mold of Steve Sarkisian's offense. And last week in the Red River rivalry, he did a phenomenal job, had over 200 yards receiving. He did have a fumble in that kickoff return, but Sarkisian smiled at him and said, "Smile, you'll be fine." And sure enough, Casey Thompson throws a bomb to Xavier Worthy, and he gets the first down. It's a huge first down for the Longhorns, even though they lost in a dramatic fashion. I'm not going to mention that game right now. But anyway, moving on to number 2, Bryce Young, the young quarterback from Mater Dei, California, or Mater Dei High School in California. Goes to Alabama, watches under Tua Tagovailoa and Mac Jones. And I got to say, this kid is impressive. Actually watching him play the game, even in the loss against Texas A&M. He looked calm. He looked like he was going through his progressions. He is fast. He is good on the throw, on the run. He is just exceptionally just a good quarterback, and very high expectations for this kid in the rest of his career in Alabama. Moving on to number 3, I got another Texas Longhorn. Surprise, surprise. But it has to involve with Casey Thompson. And the reason why I say Casey Thompson, you think a guy that would sit behind a starting quarterback for 3 years in his career, you would think he would have a little bit of rust on him, right? And then he gets told that he's not going to be the starter. Okay. You think he's going to be just infuriated and trying to go into the transfer portal. That's not the case with Casey Thompson. After the Arkansas game, he absolutely just has been phenomenal. Going through his progressions, just like Bryce Young, what I talk about is important with quarterbacks is going through their progressions, especially in college, because scouts are going to look at that and they're going to say, "Wow, he's going through his progressions. Wow, he's going to go to the check valve receiver," you know, and he's going to fake the check valve and throw that deep pass. That is a Casey Thompson move. And honestly, as much as I love Sam Ehlinger, he looks better than Sam Ehlinger in my eyes. Excuse me. And, man, just absolutely phenomenal athlete, man. He's not the fastest, but he can make you miss. He's awesome. I honestly think he's one of the most underrated college athletes in college football. And I think that he deserves a little praise for it, you know? Next up is KJ Jefferson from Arkansas. Woo Pig Suey, right? Quarterback. And this guy, he's got the resemblance of Cam Newton, but I think he's a better passer than what Cam Newton was. Well, kind of. No, they're about the same in passing. So KJ Jefferson struck me in that Texas game. Absolutely shocked me. I didn't even know who KJ Jefferson was before until he shed some light against Texas, and he got me absolutely pissed off and yelling in public. He did, because he can run. He can beat you in the run. He can beat you in the pass. With Burks and that deep running back depth that he has. I know they're on a 2-game losing streak, but watch out for Arkansas because they are good this season. And honestly, I think they will beat Auburn if they continue the way they do things, especially with that close loss to Ole Miss. I mean, watch out for KJ Jefferson, man. That's all I got to say. And last but not least, Kenneth Walker from Michigan State. Now, I know there's some Michigan State fans out there, and they love it when we go on Twitter and we talk about the recruits. What about the team itself? Impressive. Do I think they're going to win the Big Ten? I don't think so. They'll be up there in the conversation, but I don't think they're ready yet. I think they're really young. I think they can be capable of it. They just got to build up more. But Kenneth Walker is leading all of college football in rushing, almost 1,000 yards rushing in all of college football. That's impressive, especially in a 6-week span. And he's skyrocketed over 900 yards in 6 weeks. That's impressive to me. And that concludes the impressive players. Now, let's get to the most disappointing players in all of college football. I'll start with number 5, okay? Because I think y'all know where I'm going to go with all this. And let me be honest, it's all quarterbacks. It's no running backs, receivers, none of that. When I talk about disappointments, I talk about quarterbacks because that's my deal. That's my deal. Even though I never played, or I barely played quarterback in Pee Wee, but I understand how to play quarterback because I have played middle linebacker when I was in high school in my early years when I was playing for a 2A in Texas. Well, anyway, let's start with Emory Jones. I mean, what happened to him? He was supposed to be this great quarterback that's coming into Florida and to just absolutely replace Kyle Trask as the new starting quarterback. Well, I haven't seen anything special from this kid, you know. I mean, he's not a bad player. It's just that he's having a down year, I think. He might be having a down year. He might not. Who knows? But he's my number 5 disappointment of weeks 1 through 6. Number 4, Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz. What has happened to you, my friend? I mean, absolutely went from Wisconsin to Notre Dame, and now you're on the bench. Come on, man. You're better than that. Let's get things on the right track with you, my man. Do better at practice. Do better at practice. Number 3. So number 3 was a tough one for me because I thought he was going to be impressive this season. I thought he was going to be on the impressive side. Probably going to knock down one of my Longhorns off of there. No. After the Iowa game, his confidence went in a matter of couple games later. I mean, just surely disappointing. Talia Tagovailoa. I mean, he's only thrown 4 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions. 9 interceptions to 4 touchdowns. That is unacceptable. And Maryland needs to wake up and help this guy out. He doesn't have a whole lot of weapons. He just lost his best weapon in the wide receiving corps. So they have to do something about that on offense. Number 2, I'm sorry, Mac Brown, but Sam Howell has been one of the biggest disappointments in all of college football this season. Why? Because the team reflects off the leader, right? And the leader is Sam Howell, the junior out of North Carolina. I mean, I honestly am a fan of Sam Howell. His first 2 seasons, he looked incredible. This season, he looks sloppy. Like, yeah, he's got 300 yards rushing. Just has been inconsistent ever since the Virginia Tech game. He didn't look good. The Florida State game, he looked awful. It just did not work out this season for Sam Howell. I mean, his draft stock's dropping right now because of this disappointing season that he's having. And number one, okay, I have a hard criticism over this cat because he has talent. He has all the tools to be a good quarterback. But when selfishness, pride, and greediness comes into play, I think of Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler has been disappointing this season. Why? Because it's a never-ending story with this guy. I mean, he had a terrific 10 games last season. He started off ugly. I thought it was going to be like that this year. That he, after the Texas game, he'd get boof, in Kansas State, boof. After they won their first game against Kansas State in over 2 or 3 years. But that Texas game really made him vulnerable, and they replaced him with Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams changed the narrative for Oklahoma, and Oklahoma came back and beat Texas after being under 18 points at the half. I hate talking about this game, but this is a perfect example of why Caleb Williams is going to be the starter of OU over Spencer Rattler. And Rattler, being a Heisman finalist contender, now has seeped to being a backup finalist. And I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm saying it to be real. Spencer Rattler will probably transfer at the end of this season. Everybody's talking about it right now. After him not being there with the team pictures and going straight into the tunnel after the game is absolutely ridiculous. Honestly, as a Longhorn fan, if I saw one of my Longhorns do that, I would not like that guy ever again. And I'm pretty sure OU. And honestly, who gets booed at their own place? Who gets booed at their own place? And man, it's unbelievable because I heard chants when I was watching the West Virginia game against Oklahoma. They were chanting, "We want Caleb. We want Caleb." And you could tell Spencer Rattler was getting riled up, but his post-conference, or not his post-conference, but his post-game interview with the lady from ESPN, he sounded calm, cool, and collected, but in the inside, he wasn't. He wasn't calm, cool, and collected. He was actually really upset that his home field would just diss him like that. And honestly, he kind of deserves it with the way he is, But he will grow. He will learn that selfishness does not win you football games. And I have been saying Oklahoma has gotten lucky. And maybe the quarterback change will be a different story for Oklahoma, guys. And for you Boomer Sooner fans out there that are laughing at me for even mentioning the game, good game. I mean, well done. And honestly, well done by Caleb Williams. I mean, to be a freshman and to not let the spotlight get to you is absolutely impressive by that guy. He reminds me of a younger Jalen Hurts when he was at Oklahoma. But, well, that concludes the disappointments. And my final thoughts is this. We're back. The PMP is here, and we are going to make you guys proud, and we're going to try to upload every single week. Not try, do. We will upload every single week, no matter what day it is, because we all have work. We work on a living, you know. We all have real jobs. I wish this was a real job, but it doesn't happen like that. So my final thoughts is this. God, it's great to have football back, especially college football, because college football is what makes football great. And especially with the new NIL rules, it helps the players understand how sponsorships work instead of waiting 4 years and getting into the NFL. I agree on that with the NIL, but big money kind of gives you big heads like Spencer Rattler. That's why he's struggling, because he's more worried about his truck and his Mustang or whatever he's got. I don't know what kind of car he has, honestly. But let's be honest. Big money becomes a big factor in that mind, especially a mind of a kid. So I will leave y'all with this, and y'all haven't heard this in a while. We are the Pigskin Mafia Podcast. We are the PMP, the best damn football podcast in all of college football, in all of the NFL talks, the talk shows, the podcasts. We are the cream of the crop. We are the PMP. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see y'all again. Ta-ta for now.
Switch it up, turned up in my section. Every night we live it up. All my haters mad.